headband's like cutting off my circulation. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Jessica. For today's video, I'm doing a thrift flip or upcycling video where I'm transforming my old clothes into Brandy Melville inspired clothing pieces. The reason why I want to do this video is because Brandy Melville is a very popular clothing store for many of us teens, but it is very expensive. We also only carry one size, so that's just really not fair. So I'll be showing you how to turn any very basic clothing piece to a brandy-worthy clothing piece. Alright, so the first clothing piece I am working with is this very cute long sleeve Periwinkle floral print top. I actually really like this top already, but it's not brandy worthy, so it's not worth my time. My inspiration for the first top are these lace colored baby tees. The first thing I did was crop the shirt. I didn't like how the bottom hem was not straight, so I decided to take that off. The sleeves were a little long, so I decided to crop them as well. After cutting one side, I matched it with the other and cut the other side as well. After that, I hemmed the raw edges. I used sewing pins to hold the fabric down and to keep it straight when I'm sewing. And I did that for both the sleeves and the bottom hem of the top. I decided to hem this with a straight back stitch. Instead of going in and out like this forward, I'm stitching forward on the inside hem. And then on the opposite side, instead of stitching forward, I'm stitching backward. I'm going to link a very good backstitch tutorial in the description box so you guys can probably get a better explanation that's more in depth and detailed. After I finished that, I just snipped it off and worked on the hem of the sleeves with the same back stitch. There you go, look at my fabulous work. And then after stitching, I just cut off any of the excess unneeded material. Then I decided to try on the top to kind of just see how it fit and if I needed to alter anything else. I look like a square rectangle. Brandy is very about that slim, stuck to your body kind of tops. So I tried on my shirt inside out, marked all the fabric that I wanted to take in, and I used the same straight back stitch. After I was done stitching, I cut off all the excess from both sides. Here's my immaculate stitching job. Next, I worked on the collar. It was very tight on my neck, so I wanted it to be wider. I decided to cut off the original hem from the collar. The inside of the collar still had a little bit of the original stitching, so I decided to take that out so it wouldn't be such a thick layer. And I just took that off with my seam ripper. After that, I took this white lace that I had from a different shirt, pinned it down to the collar with sewing pins. And then to attach this, I used two straight back stitches, one on the top and one on the bottom. Once I was done, I tied it off and cut the thread. This helped keep the lace in place so that the bottom and the top wouldn't flare out. After attaching the lace, the last thing was to add the bow. I used this ribbon from the dollar store. My glue gun was missing in action, so I had to use good old Elmer's glue. There you can see my mediocre looking bow that I'm attaching to the shirt with clear Elmer's glue. It would definitely work better with hot glue, but gotta work with what you got. And there you have a very classic lace collared baby tee that's probably sold at Brandy Melville. Compared to what it was before, I think it definitely is more brandy, and it only took a few alterations. The next thing I'm upcycling is this plain black v-neck top. Pretty much a staple piece in anyone's closet. And my inspiration was the Zelly top from Brandy Melville. So the first thing that I did was crop the bottom and the sleeves of the top. But this time to hem the top, I did not use a back stitch. I didn't want to see the stitching, so I decided to use this invisible stitch. Basically, it's a one-stranded thread stitch. It's definitely not as strong as a back stitch, but it works. So basically what you're doing is picking up small pieces of thread from the front part of the shirt where you can actually see the hemline. Then you're stitching back through the flap that you created. Again, I'm going to link a very good tutorial on the invisible stitch. You can kind of see better what I'm doing in the next couple flips. After I finish sewing around the hem, before I tie it off, I go around the top and stretch it out just so that the shirt lays flat and doesn't scrunch up on the hem. Next, I cut straight down the middle of the top so that it can open like a cardigan. After that, I take these strands of cheetah print fabric that I cut from another top, and I'm using that to hem the flaps and the collar of the shirt. I attached it once again with a straight back stitch. The next thing to do was add the buttons to one side of the shirt. When attaching the buttons, I made sure to go diagonal so it's an X pattern. It just makes the button way more secure. After that, I matched the other side to the button side and I cut a corresponding hole to the buttons. The last thing to do was sew loops around the buttonhole to make sure that the edges don't fray and unravel. The buttons should fit perfectly in the holes. And there's the completed top. I love this top so much. I think it's a very good replica of the original Brandy cardigan that I was trying to create. It's very my style and I can't wait to wear it out. Alright, the last piece that I'm flipping for this video is this long gray plaid shirt dress. I really want to recreate one of Brandy's kind of two-piece sets, and I think this plaid shirt dress is perfect for this. First off, I cut the shirt dress into two pieces, a piece for the top and a piece for the skirt. First, working on the top, I cut the long sleeves so the shirt could be a tee. Then using my seam ripper, I took off this weird seam that was down the sleeve of the shirt. I wanted the top to be more fitted and straight, so I eyeballed the fabric I wanted to take in on the sides, making sure to leave some seam allowance, and also taking in part of the underarm part of the sleeve. Then flipping the shirt inside out, I used sewing pins to hold down the fabric, and sewed the sides back together using a back stitch. Next, I hemmed the sleeves and the bottom of the top. I thought the top was a little too cropped, so to hem the bottom of the top, I used an extra piece of fabric and created kind of a belt. So after I finished sewing the hem, I cut off the excess. Now here's where I completely F shit up. I was cutting the excess material, was not paying attention, and cut through the front part of the shirt. Then I panicked and tried to use glue to patch up the hole. Clearly, that did not work, and that's the gray residue you see around the hole. To fix this, I ended up taking up the hem and re-sewing a new bottom hem. And my problem was solved. Next, I folded down the collar and used my straightener to keep it open. I decided to sew a few pins to make sure the collar wouldn't be able to flop around. I didn't like how the original buttons were very small, so I removed them and replaced them with these black and white sided buttons. I ended up using the white side. Just like before, I'm attaching these in a diagonal and making sure they are secure before tying it off. And because the buttons were bigger than the original ones, I had to extend the buttonhole on the other side of the shirt. Lastly, I sewed loops around the holes to ensure that they won't fray. And that's the completed top. Moving on to the skirt, I first cut off the middle strip of the fabric where the buttons and the buttonholes were. After that, I took a Brandy skirt I already owned and used it as a stencil to cut the sides and the bottom of the skirt. Again, make sure to leave seam allowance so that when you sew the pieces together, it is not too small. Now you should have 3 pieces. I set the 2 smaller pieces aside and worked on the big piece, which is for the front part of the skirt. I used my Brandy skirt to mark where the slits of the skirt would be. Then I cut straight down to create 3 separate pieces. Next I took the pieces and matched their front sides together. Then I pinned the pieces and sewed them together using a backstitch, and making sure to leave about 2 inches at the bottom for the slit. Next I hemmed the slit so it wouldn't fray and it would be wider and more visible. Now taking the 2 pieces that I set aside, I am now matching and pinning the front sides together. Doing this allows the stitching to only show on the inside of the skirt. Once again, I used a straight back stitch to sew the pieces together. Once that was done, I repeated the same thing with the back middle seam of the skirt, making sure to leave enough fabric open at the top of the skirt for the zipper. After stitching, I inverted the skirt so it would be right side up. Then taking my zipper, I attached it to the skirt. Lastly, I hemmed the top of the skirt and the top of the zipper, just like all the other times in this video. Of course, I also hemmed the bottom of the skirt because symmetry, and that's the completed skirt. I really liked how this 2-piece turned out. I think it's pretty close to the idea of the Brandy version, but I just don't think the material I was working with was the best. That is the end of my video. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing me transform my old clothes into Brandy pieces. Please like the video, comment anything you want, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys for the next video. Ciao for now!